Kalaniu, and welcome to In Taiwan We Speak, your audio guide to Taiwan's mind-blowing linguistic diversity. I am Alexander Shin, and today in Taiwan we speak Taokas, a language spoken by the Taokas people, one of the indigenous peoples of Taiwan's Central Plains, in the areas of Hsinchu, Miaoli, and Taichung. Unlike most of the other indigenous communities we've discussed on this show, the Taokas are still not recognized as indigenous people by the Taiwanese government. This, according to our today's guest, impedes the preservation of the Taokas language. I am happy to be joined today by Kaisanan Ahuan, a Taokas indigenous activist and language revitalization worker. Kaisanan, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Kalaniu, Yauga Taokas a Kaisanan, Hanua Haban I Waraulo. Hello everyone, I am Kaisanan Ahuan and I am from the central Taiwan and I am the Taokas people.
I know you live now in Puli, in Nantou, right?
Yeah.
And you've come all the way here for this interview. Thank you so much for that. Now, we usually start with our guests either saying something in their language or singing. And you've already introduced yourself in Taokas language, but I know you've also prepared a song for us.
Yeah, I will introduce this song is made by myself and it uses the Taokas language and I call it a solidarity song. Taoka laua 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 Taoka laua 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 Awaranto kipolamu Awaranto kipolamu Manalong lamu Taoka Manalong lamu Taoka. Okay.
That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
You wrote it yourself.
Because we want to teach our children to learn the Taokas language. So I make this song. And this song, it has many Taokas culture meaning insights. For example, like it told people to come back to their own village or hunting fish, dance and singing together with peoples. Yeah, and became a real Taokas. Yeah. Is the meaning, yes.
It's a very beautiful song with a very beautiful meaning. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for bringing this to the studio. You're only second guest I've had here who actually sang.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and each time it's a pleasure, but it's also a big surprise. Thank you so much.
You.
I'm sure that most of our listeners who are familiar with Taiwan's history probably heard about, indigenous peoples like Taiwan or Amis or even Shiraya, which are still not recognized, but are quite well known culturally to the Taiwanese mainstream society, let's say.
Yeah.
Now, Taokas are not, and many people sadly don't know about these people. So to those people, and also to our international audience not familiar with Taokas people, how would you introduce them?
The Taokas people are one of the Austronesian ethnic group in Taiwan, and they currently mostly live in the western Taiwan, three regions: Hsinchu, Miaoli, and Dajia. Yeah, but some people migrate to the Nantou Puli. Yeah, because the Taokas people been classified by the anthropology in 1898. And they be divided into the Pingpu ethnic group.
For our listeners, I think it's worth clarifying what Pingpu means. It's one of those classifications that was used since the colonial times in Taiwan to sort of group indigenous peoples. So there was Pingpu or plains indigenous peoples and mountains indigenous peoples, right? And I think for those who've been with us since season 1 and heard our interview on Shiraya language with Professor Zhao Lanxie, they would know that Pingpu or Plains indigenous peoples historically faced a higher degree of assimilation than the mountains indigenous peoples. And partly as a result of that, also they lack the official recognition these days. Now, one interesting thing Professor Xie mentioned during that interview, she said that dividing indigenous people of Taiwan into these two groups is a wrong way to do that. It's a part of racist colonial policy. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree that because even the Pingpu indigenous, they have many people not really live in the plain. Also, we have such as the Shaolin village. They are living in a high mountain, but they are divided to the Pingpu. So this, I think, is a kind of a colonial divide way to cut the indigenous people in Taiwan. So we always want to appeal the issues that indigenous is indigenous, not Pingpu or Gaoshan. Yeah, we're just indigenous people. Yeah. And the Taokas people, including the three community, Zhuqian, Houlong, and the Bongshan community. So, for example, I belong to the Bongshan community, but Bongshan community including at least 8 or 10 villages inside. So it's very complicated to use simple word to introduce the Taokas. But I think it also shows the diversity of Taokas. But now the Taokas still not recognized by the government, so our people still fight for this.
Right.
But because you can imagine the three areas, but all because Taokas, but they have some different lifestyle. For example, my people live in Nantopuli due to some wars. So 100 years ago, so most of Taokas people actually near the sea in the plain. But because some colonial problems, so we need to be forced to change our lifestyle and migrate to another place to find a new life. So you can saw a little different inside the Taokas people. For example, in our food system, when we from sea migrate to the mountain, such as my village, during the ceremony used to be use the fish, but migrate to the mountain we use wild pig or wild deer to pray to the ancestor. So it shows the many changes from the environment. You can saw the three community also have different lifestyle. I think the Taokas people is very beautiful ethnic group, should be known more by the people. Yeah.
And I have a follow-up question here. So all these three communities that lived on the western coast of Taiwan, all three of them are represented now in Puli?
Oh, only Bongshan community migrate to the Puli. Yeah. So if you came to Hsinchu or Miaoli Houlong, you can find the village in there now. Yeah, you can still find. But if you came to Taichung Dajia, they just have a few Taokas people. Yeah, live in there. Yeah.
Is that where Bongshan people were?
Yeah. So the Bongshan community almost migrate to Puli. Yeah.
I see. In one of your interviews, you mentioned that some of the village names in Puli have the same names as the original villages in the west coast, right?
Yeah. When our ancestors migrate to Puli, so they use the same name to make the new name of new place as their new homeland. Yeah. So for example, my village called Fangli in Miaoli area also can find the same name. So I think it's a kind of way to let kids or a younger generation to know where they're from.
So the history of migration is very interesting, how your people managed to preserve some of the culture while being in Puli, but also kind of adapt it to the local environment. And there's a lot of conversation about other peoples of central plains of Taiwan, western coast of Taiwan. There are people groups who also originate from the same areas where Taokas are from.
Yeah.
What unites Taokas with other ethnic groups of central plains of Taiwan?
It's a long history about the central Taiwan. Before the foreign colonial powers came to Taiwan, they had a kingdom system in central Taiwan, which called Da Du Kingdom. And in this kingdom system, including at least 7 ethnic groups inside, including the Baze, Gahabu, Babula, Babusa, Alikun, Loa, and also including the Taokas people. And in this kingdom system, they have many close relationships can be read in the literature. Yeah, so also show us to know about the relationship 100 years ago. This kingdom system, if use another word to introduce, maybe can use alliance concept to introduce this concept. So due to this background, in 1731, let's have more than 30 villages against the Qing government. Yeah, it's a big war in central Taiwan. So it also caused the kingdom system be weakened. The power became more small. And it also caused our ancestors lost their land. So it don't have the choice. So it need to migrate to other place to find a new life to keep the culture or keep the people alive. So it's the reason why my ancestor moved to the Puli in 1822. So it's almost exactly 200 years. So in Puli, we just finished the big activity about to memory list. We hold a big ceremony activity, want to remember this history.
And you mentioned it's in 1731.
Yeah, 1731 is war and 1833 is migrate time. Yeah.
All right. So the kingdom of Dadu that you mentioned, did it exist before the Dutch colonizers even arrived?
Yeah. We have literature to recall this. When the Dutch people want to cross the land of the Dadu kingdom, they always run because the kingdom power is very strong. It cannot let the outsider cross their land. I think it's interesting. Yeah, because we usually learn the history more about the Han people. But I think the indigenous history is also very important part of Taiwan. Yeah.
So these events that you're talking about, they exist in the very fact of existence of this kingdom was so strong and was capable to withstand even the Dutch attacks. And then the war that your people had against the Qing dynasty. And then the migration that was caused by the war.
Yeah.
This history is not represented in Taiwanese textbooks?
I think now had a little, but I think because I think the writer is not really all by ourselves. So I think the ways they writing will a little different from ourselves. Yeah. So when I was a student, they have many confused about the textbooks, because teachers, when they teach our Taiwan history, and when they mention the Pingpu ethnic group, they have many stereotypes. For example, when they say in the textbook, they say Pingpu intermarried with the Han people and disappear now. But this made me feel confused because we are still here. And our elders still hold the ceremony and spoke their own language. So why the teacher say that? Because in that time I still student, I cannot do nothing. So I keep these questions in my heart until I finish my study. So I start to learn more about the history of my ethnic group. And I found some situation, because I think it's problem of identity development of young people, because they didn't know the history of their own land, their homeland. I think this caused the identification not clear. Yeah, so many people in Taiwan, even they don't know the story of the Taiwan's land. For example, many place names actually came from indigenous language. For example, such as Miaoli, also a city in western Taiwan. Miaoli, we usually use Mandarin language to read the name, but this name actually came from Taokas language. In Taokas language, we call it Bali. It has a story about our hunting. My ancestor came to this place to hunting. I found this place is a plain. In our language, the plain we call Bali. And Bali became Miaoli. Yeah. But many people live in Miaoli, but they maybe don't know this. Why their place called Miaoli? So I think it's a pity. It's also decolonized issues. Me and our people use many ways to want to change this, such as social media or write an article to how the people can more know about their homeland. I think it's a way to let the people to be more confident in their own identity.
And thank you, Kaisanan. But of course, we do not end our chat with Kaisanan here. Join us next week as we continue our conversation about the Taokas language and its speaking community, as well as our guest's story of rediscovering his own roots. Thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Oleg, and see you next week.